Good afternoon, Stoughton, and I want to thank, of course, the Stoughton Public Library for giving me this opportunity to display my artwork. I haven't done a display in a long time. So hopefully, if you come and view it, you'll enjoy it as much as I had making it. Again, my name is Michael Hecht, and the reason I'm saying it a second time, because it becomes important. I really believe in synchronicity sometimes happening in people's lives, not only in historical moments. And this is one of them for me. Years ago, I had a friend who early on was fabulous with computers. And I only knew what a computer can do just a long time ago when I saw my sister selling stuff on eBay. However, I once said to my friend, also Michael, he was the editor of Bloomsbury Review, I said, my wife's away for the weekend, and I thought I'm the only person in our family, all of the family members, that does any kind of work, artwork, into their adult lives. And I happened to cut paper. I had an exhibit in New York City of acrylic paintings I did, and when I came back from the opening, I didn't want to paint anymore. And so I reached down for a pencil and pulled up an X-Acto knife. And I started to use the X-Acto knife like a pencil. And I knew right then and there that was my medium. And so I've had opportunities with Discovery Channel to show my work, dance companies, opera company, multiple gallery shows. So it's been a great opening doors that maybe in my life I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So getting back to Michael, and we went to the library in Denver, and we spent a whole day trying to look up my family. My family originally came from Poland, and they waited 2 years with their bags packed in order to get here. They were being persecuted as Jews in the town of Losevich. They went to Cuba. That was the usual destination of the boats that carried Jews away from the pogroms. And unfortunately, my father's father, my grandfather, who I never met, died of a heart attack. And then when they came to America, they arrived in Florida, and the arrangement was made that one of the cousins that lived in the Bronx would come down and meet them. My father, his sister, and his mother were illegal immigrants, and they were brought up to the Bronx with the other cousins and lived there. Many years later, there was a knock on the door during World War II, the beginnings, and they asked if Abraham Hecht lives here, my father. And my father said, yeah, I'm Abraham Hecht. And they said, well, you're drafted. And my father said, I pretty much support the family. And unfortunately, I don't think history is that clean. At least I wasn't told it's very clean at times. And the two men in suits said, well, Mr. Hecht, if you don't serve, we're going to send you back to Poland. And my father served honorably. He worked under the staff of General Eisenhower and was very proud of his service. So I wanted to find out what our cousins are. My father didn't talk about his family too much. I didn't know very much about it. So Michael, my friend, we went on the computer, and like I said, we spent a whole day in Aurora, Colorado, never got anywhere. And the second day was going halfway through, and I finally said, you know what, Michael, we're not having any luck finding my father's town, so let's go have a beer, it's on me. And he said, well, let me give it one more try. And as I left to go get some water or something like that, there was a giant Atlas road map magazine, huge. And it said pre-Holocaust. And looking back, what are the chances of coming across something like that? So we took it and we went through it, and there on the map was my father's town, Losevich, because it was pre-Holocaust. During the Holocaust, it was wiped out. So that opened the windows on the computer for my friend Michael. Not only did he get the manifest of the boat that brought my grandmother, my father, and his sister, but he also was able to go further into the background of our family in Poland. And he discovered an artist. His name was Joseph Hecht. Lived in Poland, considered a second-tier artist, was associated with Amedeo Modigliani, who my exhibit is a tribute to, Picasso, Jacques Lipschutz, and other artists. And I'll just read you, there's an art form to this day that's very famous in Poland. It's called wycinanki. It's a Polish decorative paper cutouts, which are regarded by many as the most beautiful in the world. They were used to decorate the walls of ceiling beams in countryside cottages and given as gifts to family members and friends. The colorful cutouts of flowers, circles, and stars, with a symmetrical arrangement, reflect a particularly high level of artistry. In addition, the cutouts were of peacocks, roosters, birds, also decorative scenes depicting special events throughout the year. This traditional art form was used as a relaxation in the rural areas of Poland after the chores of the day were completed. This folk art was passed down from generation to generation. As it developed, became quite competitive in Polish towns and villages. New themes and ideas developed as the artwork became more detailed and intricate. The decorative cutouts became popular throughout Poland in the middle of the 19th century and remain a treasured form of Polish folk art. Why am I reading this? And the simple reason is Joseph Hecht. He's related to my father's mother. He was a cousin. He was born in 1891 in Lodz in Poland. And the main thing is, instead of cutting paper as the traditional form, he cut metal. And when my friend Michael, who knew my artwork, and I was over his shoulder, we looked at that, and I said, just call me Shirley MacLaine, because I was astounded by the comparison. And then, not only that, because of being a Jew, he ended up in Berlin, and as the Nazis rose, he was forced to leave Germany, and the country he went to was Norway. For the last 24 years, I've been working in Stoughton, and we all know the Norwegian background. So there you go again. You can't make this stuff up. He painted, he produced some prints, and before he went to Paris to continue, he got married, and he brought his works with him from Norway. He lived in a town called Asker, which was a coastal town near Oslo. Okay? Maybe I am Shirley MacLaine, you know? He also depicted Norwegian landscapes. He took his printing or printmaking techniques now to Paris, and Jordan, our staff person from WSTO, hopefully will be able to show you a small cutout he did, and which enabled him to make these black and white prints. I also have a picture of him in his studio. He continued with his loving wife, Ingrid Sophia Morsing. They had a son in 1922, and his wife's family helped finance him through some tough years. Again, he wasn't able to be anything rich from his art, but they were able to allow him to do his art with the family's backing. the last thing I just want to say for him, he talks about he was able to see World War II, and he was able to see the eventual defeat of the Nazis. But the Nazi regime splintered his family, and he was never quite emotionally the same. He had a very strong sense of loneliness. And his works are charming, they're scarce. And on July 19th, 1951, Joseph Moise Hecht, who was getting ready to leave for Sweden to work on a commission of tapestry designs, died of a heart attack in his studio. His estate eventually went to his son. What to me was interesting about his diagnosis was my father's father died of a heart attack in Cuba, and later on in life, my father also had heart issues. And I don't know yet if I've outlived my father or these men yet, but so far it's going okay. So I just wanted to bring that into highlight. And then a final thing I wanted to say is Amedeo Modigliani is also Jewish. And so I didn't make it so much as a tribute. That was not my first priority. My first priority is I love the portraits by Modigliani. Certain portraits he had of women, they always had their heads tilted. And when you see my exhibit, that is what I use. And just to give you an idea, I start with a simple design of a round head, the neck is tilted, and then I put a line for the shoulders and neck. And then everything you see in there is unplanned. And I just do a cutout, and you'll see it's white on black. I've recently done some color, and I've done that in the past. But it's allowed me through the years, and that's why I call them knife drawings. So hopefully, when you hear that story, not only Joseph Hecht, Amedeo Modigliani, and what's also interesting for our family is we're fortunate enough to have a son who, in the old photos of my father, his father, when they were in their 20s, my son Josh is a living reminder of our generations. And Amedeo Modigliani, the same thing, that dark hair, the dark eyebrows, some very serious eyes. So it's been a pleasure to do this artwork and then be able to talk about. And I also want to tell everybody, and I've said it before in presentations, the only non-immigrants, in my personal opinion, to this country are the Native Americans. And the rest of us all have a story and are proud of our immigrant backgrounds. So thank you once again to WSTO, and thank you to the Stoughton Public Library. I invite you to come out and view it, and I think children and adults will both enjoy it. Thank you.